Movies can have a lasting impression on you and bring back great memories. Certain images you will always remember. Things that have been with me all my life and keep getting added to with every movie I see.
I will turn this place into the fucking Wild Bunch if I think you are fucking with me.
E.T. from home.
This is the end of your rotten life, you motherfucking dope pusher.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Welcome to my Celluloid Heart Podcast, Season 4, Episode 153. This is a podcast where we take two films that live in our head and heart and bring them together over two episodes by one topic or theme. I am your host, Phillip Duke, and I am here with...
his cousin Chip. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Chip. So remember, I don't know if you remember this, it was kind of an exciting thing for me that I had been looking for a movie for a while that I couldn't figure out. First of all, there was the one where I couldn't figure out where the saying, like, maybe we can get him to stand in line when the guy looks and there's only one bullet left. And I couldn't figure out what it was. Brothers in Armchairs podcast did a thing on Free Jack. I watched Free Jack to then listen to the show and was like, oh shit, it's from Free Jack when they're in the elevator on the way down and he turns to her and says, like, do you think maybe we can get him to stand in line? And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, that's it. Mm-hmm. And then there was another movie, Chinese
And
movie.
how many years have you been?
That was since it came out, like 92 or 93 until like this year. So it was like, holy fuck. So yeah, because they just did an anniversary of it. So what was it, 30 years? And so I was like, shit. So then there was a Chinese movie that I saw once on Turner Classic Movies of this artist who like makes sculptures, and he kidnaps this girl and she's going to be his muse. And she doesn't want to be there, but slowly she kind of starts to like him, and he's making like this nude body of her or whatever. But then they start getting where she wants more. Like, then they got to start hurting each other because sex just isn't enough. So then all of a sudden he's got to like stab her. She's got to cut, do whatever. Then it becomes...
Is this turning into a boxing Helena?
Probably it might have been, but I never saw Boxing Helena, but I remember that there was a lawsuit because Kim Basinger was like, yeah, I'll be in that movie. And then was like, no, I won't. And they were like, you made an oral agreement that you would, another useless information that I know. And so they end up at the end, she's just like, cut off my arm and then cut off my leg and like just keep doing it. And it's like, and they both like to each other, like stab, like it's really crazy. And I just remember going, holy fuck, like what was that movie? But it always stuck with me, but I couldn't remember it. So later this year, I even wrote New Beverly, Quentin Tarantino's theater, that his guys that work there, they know movies. So I wrote the guy that programs the stuff. I wrote him on Facebook and I was like, hey, on Instagram. I was like, hey, do you know this movie? I said, also, my dad is looking for a movie that was made in the late 60s, where at the end of the movie, the guy, some hair blows the girl. They get away from this crazy house, and they're driving down the road at the end of the movie, and the guy says something like, thank God we're out of there, or she says it, and all of a sudden this hair blows in her face, and it's a freeze frame. And she's the bad guy all along, spoiler alert. And Dad's like, I remember going, holy shit. So my dad said, he's been looking for this movie since 1968. You thought mine was a long time.
Wow.
So he was in the brig for the Marines because he was like, gonna go AWOL. And they were like, no. And he was like, I don't want to die in Vietnam. Like, fuck that. And if he did die in Vietnam, I wouldn't be here today. Well, the other day while talking to him, I did another search. So I've been doing searches for this movie. I'm like, I want to find out. I'm a movie guy. I want to find out what this movie is.
Yeah.
So I would do it. He's like, it's filmed in Jerome. And then I'd see a movie on TV and I'd watch it. And I was like, I swear Dad said like somebody that dresses like a girl or dresses weird. And then I found this Donald Pleasance movie where Donald Pleasance is always good, like playing these weird characters. And I'm like, maybe it's this, but it didn't end that way. So I'm like, no, that's not it. And he was like, it was a guy like from the movie The Time Machine, the one in the 60s. He's like, it was like him, like Rod Taylor. It was like that guy. So I'm like, okay. So I would do a Jerome search on IMDb and do these searches. Couldn't find it. Finally, while I'm talking to him on the phone, I do a search on IMDb for Jerome, and I find this movie called The Name of the Game is Kill! ! And I'm like, oh, okay. So I click on it. Stars Jack, the guy from Hawaii Five-0, Jack Lord. Jack Lord.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, Dad, it's this movie. And he's like, what? How'd you find that? And I said, he goes, all I remember, he goes, I don't even know if it was good. I just remember we're in prison and we didn't get movies much. And when I got a movie and we watched it, then I was like, that was a weird movie. And I always remember it. And I was like, cool. So I was like, I said, here's the plot. A desert family offers a traveling stranger its hospitality, but the stranger doesn't realize exactly what they have in store for him. So I show him the trailer, and he's like, yeah, he goes, the guy was like on a desert road. This Jeep pulls up, picks him up. So I start watching trailer, and that's how the trailer starts. I'm like, here, let me share you the trailer. And he's like, and you know, he's an older guy. He's like, can I watch YouTube and talk to you? Yes, you can. Okay, but I can't hear you while it's playing. Okay, just go ahead and, you know. And then he was like, oh my God, that's it. How'd you find it? And I'm like, I don't know. I did a search this time and it popped up. Like all the other times I had to go through this list of things and I couldn't find a Rod Taylor movie. I couldn't find a guy like that because I wasn't thinking of a Jack Lord type because I was thinking, well, he did Hawaii Five-0, he did Dr. No. And so then finally it came, and then I'm like, it's available on Amazon Prime. He's like, how can I watch it? I go, you need to talk to some of your friends in Montrose and be like, do any of you have an Amazon Prime? And if so, can I give you $1 to watch this movie? Yeah. And he's like, he goes, well, maybe sometime when I come to town, we'll watch it. And I'm thinking, no, I'm not going to fucking wait for you. Like, I'm going to watch it like pretty soon. Like, it sounds crazy. Yeah. So like he said, he doesn't know if it's any good or not, but he's like, I'm going to watch it. So anyway, that was cool. I was like, he was like, oh my God, thank you. Like for a year, I said, yeah, you've been looking for that since '68. Mine was only from '92 and from whatever the other time was, you know, from the Chinese one. So, all right, you ready to get on with the show, or do you have anything? We have no corrections.
Sweet.
And I don't know if it's because of that or just because I don't think we did because we're getting better with it. But also, I didn't work last week, so I didn't re-listen to our show like I usually do on my way to work. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, because you're talking about these movies and everything, there was a movie back in the day that I remember watching. Mm-hmm. That for the longest time I knew it was something about birthday, but it wasn't until years later that I found out it was called Happy Birthday to Me.
Oh, yeah. It's like a horror movie in the 80s. Yeah.
And I was just like, because I just remember the girl, I think from 80s Enough or something, being naked or whatever, and she got in trouble because she was doing both.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Both shows, I think, at the same time or whatever. And they got mad at her for being,
It might have been a thing like, remember when Lisa Bonet was in Angel Heart? Yeah. And Bill Cosby, the fucking prick that he is like, how dare you show nudity? How dare you drug people to have sex with them? Like, you're the creep.
Yep.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I just remember some weird thing where somebody got stabbed or something and they just almost looked like they were melting or something.
Yeah, some of those 80s horror movies like are pretty good. There's a movie coming up on my Phil's Film Favorites that I was surprised. I've been kind of looking for this movie, but I thought it was Silent Rage, but it's something else. We'll get to it. There's a hint. Okay. Little Chuck Norris. Yeah. Now on with the show.
Every once in a while, I see a man in that chair who could just as easily be on this side of the table.
That muscle's just for show. Helps me lift stuff.
Man of principle.
Relinquish it now.
You know the difference between right and wrong. And you have a moral compass. I knew before you told me that you got an American flag in your home. You probably got more than one. You're a patriot.
Don't tell me my business. I do things direct, and I have a system. Minimum freedom.
I'm not going to tell you anything you want to hear. And prison will give me plenty of time to look at guys I don't like.
Brawl in Cell Block 99 from 2017. So regarding the title of the film, Zahler remarked how he wanted to use a title with multiple meanings instead of titles with one word or two words, with the word "the" exemplifying how he was underwhelmed by the title of the 2016 film Moonlight and how it felt meaningless compared to the play it was based on, In Moonlight, Black Boys Look Blue, which is a way better title. If you didn't see the movie, but if you saw the movie, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's way better.
Oh, yeah.
The plot. After working as a drug courier and getting into a brutal shootout with police, a former boxer finds himself at the mercy of his enemies as they force him to instigate violent acts that turn the prison he resides in into a battleground. Ba-dum-bum-bum. So something that I got wrong that I couldn't believe. I only saw this movie once. Now I saw it twice, but I remember it stuck with me. And then my brother-in-law was like, what's it? My wife's like, she watched it with me and she was like, oh my God, you got to get this or you got to see it. So then my brother-in-law saw it and was like, oh my God, that was crazy. And, and then we watched it again last night, her and I. So I always, for some reason, thought that big guy that they go to do the drugs on the pier, I thought that was Deacon from, King of Queens. Remember, like a couple back, I was like, "Oh yeah, Deacon's in it from King of Queens, Deacon," and you were like, "I don't know what the fuck you mean." So I thought it was him. So then we're watching it, and I'm like, I thought Deacon was in this. I go, "That's not Deacon," and my wife's like, "You're racist just because he's black." I go, "I think that guy's a Mexican." Like I don't even know what I was thinking. Just he was a big guy that was the size of Vince Vaughn, and if you know the black guy from King of Queens, he's pretty big. He's he's his buddy. And so I was like, so then she checks while we're watching it. She's like, Deacon is not in this movie. I go, oh my God. Like, I thought maybe he'll show up in the prison. I don't know. I'm like, oh, fuck. So I was wrong. So there's a correction that I made right now. Yep. Stars Vince Vaughn as Bradley Thomas. So in an interview with Den of Geeks, S. Craig Zahler explained his decision on choosing Vaughn. He said, quote, for instance, a character closer to this guy is someone like Woody Harrelson. His head is there. His accent is naturally there. I'm a big Woody Harrelson fan, but he would be the normal choice here. When you're trying to make something unique, which I'm trying to do with all my pieces, and I took some guy who'd played a character close to this one before, I'd lose the unique experience of watching this character and physicality, the muscle, the very layered internal work. The conflation of all of this stuff yields a character we've never seen before. If Woody Harrelson came in and did this, he would have done an excellent job. The transformation isn't as big. That was the thing with picking Vince. That transformation would be there. Unquote. And then Vaughn previously had boxing and wrestling experience, allowing Zahler to shoot the fight scenes that he wanted with as little cutting as possible. So the filming style is similar to Buster Keaton, Fred Astaire, and Jackie Chan, where there's little editing and as possible and allowing the actor to play in person. Zahler states, quote, I don't think anyone in the world is walking out of this movie thinking, oh, that was Vince Vaughn's stunt double, unquote. It's like, yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Jennifer Carpenter as Lauren Thomas. Don Johnson as Warden Tuggs. So this part's interesting, the way that Warden Tuggs the character works. So in Entertainment Weekly, Zahler praised Don Johnson, saying, quote, Don does a fantastic job in bringing this character to life as someone who handles different people as an animal handler would handle different animals, unquote. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of cool where he handles him different than, say, somebody else. But also, like he said, like, I have no problem. Like, I'll save the taxpayers' money and I'll fucking kill you if you fuck up. And you're feeling bad for Vince Vaughn, like for Bradley. You're just like, he's got to be here. Now he's never getting out. Like, he's had to do this, you know. And Udo Kerr as the Placid Man, or Placid Man. Written by S. Craig Zahler. So a fact here, just like Zahler had watched several Westerns and decided to write Bone Tomahawk, a Western with a weird twist to it, he then watched several prison movies and decided to write his own version of a prison movie. He told The Verge in October of 2017, quote, prison is such a compelling place to set a movie because you have a bunch of hard-edged dudes confined together and all of them are going to have interesting backstories, unquote. And it's directed by S. Craig Zahler. So, are you ready for my recasted Chip? I'm excited to see what Chip thought of this, because so there's some movies that I watch that I say oh, Chip will love it. There's some movies like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that I was like going into it before I rewatched it. I was like, I don't know if Chip's gonna, and then I watch it and I was like, no, Chip's gonna dig this. This one was one, you know, and I asked you and you said, we'll see. And I'm watching it and I'm going, I don't know. This is questionable. Like, he loves Vince Vaughn, but I don't know if he likes a movie. And my rating changed since the first time I watched it. But anyway, okay. So my recasted.
So it changed since you watched it before.
Right. I held it higher than maybe Bone Tomahawk. And now that's all. Now it's somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But we'll see.
Okay.
So Thomas Bradley, Michael Shannon, even though he's not a comedic actor, but I could see him just being brutal. He's just such a heavy, like, he brings such heaviness to all of his shit.
Yeah, and it's weird because I saw him do interviews. God, he sucks at interviews. Like, he sucks. Like, it's weird how he can turn into a character so good, and he could just be laser focused and turning into somebody.
Yeah.
But when he's like trying to interact with just normal social interactions, he sucks at it.
I think with good actors, you get that. I think Robert De Niro is not a great interview. Maybe Al Pacino might be a little better, but who's the other one I was thinking of? Joaquin Phoenix. He's like, and that a lot of these actors, they don't want to dive into, here's how I got into the role, because they feel stupid. Sorry. Because they feel stupid about being like, oh, here's what I did. Here's how I got. Like, tell us how you. They feel stupid because they're like, we're just playing pretend. And I feel stupid of being like, here's how I got into the character. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Lauren Thomas. Now, this was kind of a reach. I was going to go with the other girl from Man of Steel. But I went with Emma Stone instead of Amy Adams. So Emma Stone, even though she might be too young, but I think she does really good if you've ever seen her in other work other than comedies or Zombieland and stuff. So I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Warden Tugg, are you ready for this? You probably know where I'm going with this. Philip Michael Thomas, the other Tubbs from Miami Vice.
Yeah.
Because he was good in Miami Vice, like when he would play like the dramatic roles, and then he was in, which I'll get to later, but Nash Bridges, he did like an episode of Nash Bridges or something, you know, and it was like, cool, they're back. But he played somebody else. But anyway, so that would be cool. And then Placid Man, this kind of goes right with Udo Kerr, Werner Herzog. So you know the guy in the first Mandalorian episode that had Yoda?
Okay.
Yeah. He's a director, and he was, you know, so that guy, he'd be like another foreign guy, but just be really evil. Like,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Wow. Yikes.
What do you got, Chip? Oh, so my thing real quick was, so Nash Bridges, my wife loves Nash Bridges. She grew up on that show. She watched it all the time. It came out in like 96. So I was like, honey, there's a movie that I found out about a couple weeks ago. And I was like, they did a movie of them coming back. And she's like, oh, really? And we didn't know where it was. It was like playing, like you had to get some kind of service, some special thing. So then the other day I'm looking on Google and I just it pops up Nash Bridges, and I click on it and it's the movie playing on Peacock. It's on Peacock now. So I'm like, oh nice. Honey, look, it's Peacock. She goes, yeah, I think it's just a one-off. I go, it is, but you want to watch it? She goes, yeah. So we start watching it. She's like, I don't remember this being as cheesy as it was. Like, I'm like, well, for one, they wanted to go more like modern, but they made like nanobites that go into these people's systems that make them aggressive, and then they fight each other, and then people bet on it. And it was just all this kind of stuff that was like, and then they had a trans woman that was working, and they were like, oh yeah, you used to come here with your dad. You'd come with him to work. And she was like, yeah. And so now she's been on screen and they've known her for half a day. Then they're driving in the car and Don Johnson turns to her and goes, so how is it on the force being a trans woman? And I'm like, come on, really? You got to beat me over the head with that? Like, just leave it. Like, you didn't ask that before. When you were like, you came in with your dad, you weren't like, you were the boy that used to come in with your dad, or, you didn't touch on it then. You wait for half a day with this person to go, how is it being, like, come on.
Wow.
But, yeah. Okay, Chip. Sorry. Thomas Bradley, what do you got? Yeah, so I gave that 2 hearts. Nash Bridges movie.
I understand. All right, Bradley Thomas. Alexander Skarsgård.
That's the Northman guy?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be real brutal. That'd be like a guy with a lot of muscles. Like Vince Vaughn was already like, you could see how him and the guy got in the fight at the bar and he got stabbed in the neck, Steve Buscemi. Like, you're like, fuck, I don't want to mess with that guy. Like, one of the things that I didn't put here, but that was on the research that I was doing, was S. Craig Zahler was like, you see him as a comedic actor, but if you ran into him on the street and you didn't know who he was, you would not see him as a comedic actor. You'd be like, get the fuck out of that guy's way. He's 6'5". We need to step aside.
Yep.
All right, Lauren Thomas.
I have Brie Larson.
Oh, cool. Yeah, she got kind of that same quality.
That's what I was looking for.
Waif type quality of Jennifer Carpenter, yeah.
Yep. For Warden Tugs, I have Bryan Cranston.
Cool. That'd be really good, yeah. Cool.
And then for Placid Man, I have Christoph Waltz.
Oh, that would be good. You know who I was going to go with is my regular guy, F. Murray Abraham. But I thought maybe he's a little too old. I know, right? But yeah, that'd be really good. Oh man, those are good choices, Chip. Those come to you pretty quick, or were they?
No, I had to let the movie go for a while, because for it to really, once I got Skarsgård, it kind of came quick after that. But that was the hardest part at that point, because I was like, who could be that tall, that menacing?
Yeah.
But still be a character that could be loved throughout the whole thing because he's so disciplined and cares,
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah. Mike O'Shannon hit me right away. And then maybe the last one, but then I was like, who were these people? So this movie came into your life because of the show. I saw it because people had said, like, watch Bone Tomahawk. I watched that and was so blown away by how that was different. And I was like, I got to check this writer-director out. And then I think I bought it because it was cheap enough. I'm like, I'm just going to buy Brawl in Cell Block 99. And then same thing with Dragged Across Concrete. I was like, first of all, I love that title, Dragged Across Concrete. And I was like, cool. And then I bought that movie. So, yeah. All right, you ready to get to some listener opinions?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Well, you gotta have an opinion.
Well, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one.
I hated this movie.
Yeah, well, You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Opinions vary.
Movie Chatter Podcast wrote, so I think it's Dave over there, Movie Chatter Podcast wrote, quote, "Hell yes, exclamation point. Fantastic film, exclamation point," unquote. Tim Martin wrote, quote, "Just like Bone Tomahawk, Zahler crafts his unique dialogue and love for B-movie exploitation films excellently. While I prefer Bone Tomahawk, Brawl In Cell Block 99 gives us probably Vince Vaughn's best performance, exclamation point. Not to mention an excellent soundtrack very similar to his next film, Dragged Across Concrete," unquote. Michael Strom, our guy who sent us that list of his favorite movies, which we need to check out Arthur Christmas still. Michael Strom wrote, "Great movie, brutal, but I think Vince Vaughn was great." Donnie B.
Yes,
Good,
very much.
Dave's brother from Movie Chatter Podcast, wrote, quote, "Loved it, so brutal, great performance by Vince. He really stepped out of his comfort," unquote. So I was like, yes, agreed on all counts.
Yes.
You ready to discuss this movie?
Yes, let's do it.
All
let's
right.
talk
Now,
about awesome Vince.
I haven't read through this thing, but you need to stop me anytime. You let me know. But anyway, Bradley Thomas is laid off from his job at an auto repair shop. When he arrives home, he finds a hickey on his wife, Lauren, who admits to an extramarital affair. Bradley orders her inside the house before he violently dismantles his car. So what's interesting here, this is where I got pulled out of the movie the first time. When he pulled the hood off, I'm like, come on, really? Like, nobody can pull the hood off unless you get a socket wrench and you take the hood off. Like, but then something that I was listening to on the making of course, which is that they made like a fake hood for him to dent. They made like the fake window so he could punch the window, but it looked real, but he could punch through the window and like all that and just tear up the car, and they could just film it and have him be angry. But you're also this guy's way angry.
Well, and I was kind of like, I think I was kind of pulled out a little bit too when he pulled off the hood.
Yeah.
But it was very much that's a very angry man. Mm-hmm. And when they say that a woman can lift a car to save her children.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a 6'5" guy
and
that has the what am I looking for? He's towering over this car enough to where grabbing a hold of it and ripping up and out would be fairly easy for somebody who's 6'5". If you're shorter than that, you're going to have a tough time.
You have to climb up on it.
Yeah, that's what leverage. Yeah,
you have to put your feet on the windshield and try to push away. No,
which would have ended with me flying backwards. Through the air because I would have lost grip.
Yeah, exactly.
Bye bye.
Exactly.
And all the neighbors would have been like, "What the fuck is this guy doing?"
No T.J. Hooker to hold on to that hood. What's interesting with that though is also they're showing that this is his love for her. They're also showing you this is a little more extreme than a normal thing. And so it's like these guys that are very angry. You and I are not these guys. I mean, you get angry, but you're not this guy to take it out on someone. You'll take it out on a wall or whatever. Poor drywall. And but it's that thing of some guys are like that, don't know how to express their love, and all they know is how to do that. And they might love somebody a lot, but they do it in the wrong way. And that person's like, well, I'm not into this. He later discusses with Lauren their failing relationship, forgives her, and returns to drug trafficking. So it's cool because she goes to give him a hug, and he's like, "Don't touch me right now." Like, no. And you're like, "Oh, that was so cool." And just some of that.
But he was nice about it too.
Yeah,
that's what I love about it is that once he got all of that emotion out. And went in there to talk straight with her.
And sits down and goes, "Now we're going to talk about it. I love you, and here's what." It's not like fucking tearing up the house and being still angry at her.
But I mean, there's a point to it where I'm sitting there going, okay, his car's over here. That's her car. He destroyed her car. Kind of a thing. So it's very much he's kind of covering his ass a little bit in this way when he says, "I'm going to go back, to doing the drug trafficking stuff, to being the the package carrier, I guess is what he called it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go back to doing that because I'm tired of living in a shithole and want to have a nice car and all this. And he says all that. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, you're wanting to make sure that she doesn't fucking walk out on you because you fucking destroyed her car. You're going to get a better car.
Well, and my wife's look of that was he just destroyed, like, they're together. Now he's got to buy her a new car. And I'm like, well, yeah, true. 18 months later, Bradley and a now pregnant Lauren have adjusted to a better life. So, yeah, they walk in. My wife's like, oh, they moved up. I said, yeah, look at that stairs. Look at those stairs. Like, those are beautiful.
Well, and like right away, you see him in his new car.
Yeah.
Like that new car. And I was like, oh, that's fucking nice.
Yeah,
and then
Dodge Challenger. Yeah.
Yeah, but when he pulls up and he takes the license plate off and covers it and everything before he walks in, and I'm sitting there going, I was thinking that he was doing that. It's not his car. Like it's just a traffic car kind of thing. So that he's covering it up or whatever like that. And I'm like, okay, but then I'm thinking he's doing that, and then he's got to take a long walk home. But he's like right there. His house is right the fuck there.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're covering it, but you're leaving the same place with it.
Well, and it's interesting because that was his boss's house, and he parked kind of away and then walked to his boss's house. Wasn't that where he parked it and walked to the boss's house? Didn't it cut to him walking up to the boss's house? Yeah, it was before he went home. I don't know. Maybe you're right. You're probably right.
Yeah.
I was thinking that he parked it there and then walked to the boss's house, and I was kind of thinking, oh, you don't want your boss, somebody to be like, we saw this car and now it's at the boss's house. But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, on a total kind of side note, kind of same thing. Remember last week I was like, I'm going to check if I can do audio description for the blind and see what it tells me for Bone Tomahawk, for that end scene, for them scalping that guy and cutting him in half. And I tried, and there was nothing on my Apple TV. Like, I couldn't do it. So maybe on my computer or somewhere I could, but I couldn't find. I was like wanting to. I was like, this will be fun, but no. Bradley's boss, Gil, entered. Yeah, see, so then it goes to Bradley's boss. That's why I thought he parked there and then went to his boss's. But anyway, who knows?
No, because he went and he grabbed her and he took her into the bedroom. He told her to put the knife down and stuff, that she shouldn't be doing that. Yeah. And then he takes her into the bedroom, and that's when Gil calls and says,
That's right. You're right. I'm wrong. Okay. Bradley's boss, Gil, introduces him to Eleazar, a new business associate, with a task to pick up a package of crystal meth with two of Eleazar's men. Bradley distrusts one of Eleazar's henchmen, Roman, but accepts the job when Gil offers him 3 months paternity leave. So I like when he's like, look, I don't want to give you an ultimatum. And Vince Vaughn's like, so you're giving me an ultimatum? Like, that's what that is. Like, what do you mean? And also how he tells that guy, he's like, no, I'm not going to work with him. He's on drugs. And he's like, these are my guys. Like, I know my guys. He's not on drugs. And then he's like, look at me. I'm telling you, when I say drop the package, you drop the package. And the guy's like, I dropped the package. Okay. Like,
what do you do? Drop it.
When they arrive at the pier and successfully obtain the drugs, Bradley realizes it's a police trap and orders Eleazar's men to ditch the drugs. However, Eleazar's men ignore him and exchange fire with the police. Bradley, hesitant, attacks Eleazar's men. One of the men is fatally shot by the police while Roman is incapacitated. Bradley is then detained and, unwilling to give out names, is sentenced to 7 years in a medium security prison. So what's good there is him trying to climb. So like some people might watch that and go, come on already. Like just cut to him climbing up on the thing. But him trying to climb that pole, I'm like, they were like, we're just going to film this. You try to get up there. And he's like trying to get up there and sliding down a little bit. And then he's got him all stuck in his shoe. When he gets up there, he's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then him like them just shooting the cops. Like, and so then when that cop finds that guy out in the open, he just like shoots him right in the head. It's like, oh.
Yeah. But, that was awesome though. Cause the big guy tosses the grenade.
Yeah.
And they're all like, grenade. So they all run and the car lifts up from the boom basically. But I was expecting a much bigger boom. But the thing
and that was the one that dropped into the water with Vince Vaughn. and then there's like an explosion under the water, and it's like, and I go, that was a grenade, honey, but it's not that big of a. That's what people say when they join the army and they go to basic, and they're like, oh, it's a grenade, and they pull it and they throw it, and it's just like, and they go, oh, I thought it'd be like in the movies, like kaboom.
Yeah.
So
well, especially when it was directly under the car, lifted the car up.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here going, now if that would have hit the tank and stuff, wouldn't it have done a hell of a lot more?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, whatever. But the fact that later on, when they say that, you're lucky that, because, you shot those two guys or whatever, that because of you, no police officers,
no other
were
cops.
harmed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, really? With the grenade lifting the car up and stuff, nothing happened? I was like, all right.
Yeah. Well, after when he, before, I mean, they died before that, but I think because he intervened. But it was also funny where they're like, it shows his character, not only of his love for her, but the thing of just tell us the name. And he's like, no, I'm not, whatever you say, I'm not going to talk, Larry. My name's Lawrence Blow. Okay, Larry. And it's like, and he's just like, here's how we could play. He's like, I'm not going by any of you're giving me all this cop shit, like basically. And he's just like, I know how this goes. Like, no. During the night, Lauren. Okay, so so he tells her he'll get like 4 years because that's what Larry tells him. You get like 4 years, and I think but now you haven't ratted on your boss, so we're gonna, But also the judge is like, I'll give you what I want. Gives him 7 years, and you can see him deflated a little bit of like, fuck, like I could do 5, 4 with good behavior, 3 or 2, but now all of a sudden 7, fuck, with good behavior is 3.5, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So then, during the night, Lauren is kidnapped by men under the orders of Eleazar. My wife's like, just fucking unload. Like, she's like, just get out of there. During the night, Lauren is kidnapped by men under the orders of Eleazar. In prison, Bradley is visited by the Placid Man, a henchman of Eleazar, and is told that unless Bradley assassinates an inmate named Christopher Bridge, who is held in cell block 99 at Redleaf, a maximum security prison, the limbs of his unborn child will be surgically removed by an abortionist and sent to him. So this is one where you and I are writing this. I would write, they're going to give her, I wouldn't even go this far, but they're going to give her an abortion. They're going to kill your baby. That's as far as you and I would go.
Yeah.
As Craig Zahler says, this guy's so surgical, he can go in and cut off the arms and legs and the baby will still be born. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, oh my God. Yeah.
Well, and that to me was like, okay, visually in your head.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's in your head, you're just like, you're thinking the worst. Like, no matter what you rate this movie, it's up to you to judge, It's like I said, like with Psycho, the thing with Psycho, like, oh, we edited this a certain way. You never see the knife penetrate, but people swear, no, I saw that in the 60s. No, I swear I saw the knife go in. I saw a lot of blood. It was black and white. You didn't see anything.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that, with that, that's what I loved about growing up and watching some of the old horror stuff too, was that, you just didn't see any of it. Like, why am I blanking right now? Stephen King, vampires. Salem's Lot.
Okay.
So Salem's Lot, if you watch the original movie, like it would always go to like it was about something was about to happen or like the vampires coming in or whatever, and all of a sudden it would just cut away.
Yeah.
Like it was always like, or it would show like a shadow on the wall or some shit like that. And so for me as a kid watching that, I really thought that this shit was happening because it was making me think that this is happening.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not actually seeing it. So I was like, oh God. So then when I go to watch it when I'm older, I'm expecting all of this stuff that was only in my mind because they led me there. And I was like, this movie sucks.
Yeah. I think a lot of people went to see this movie for a horror movie because from what I've read, everybody's like, that movie sucks. The only thing I know about it is it's got Hutch in it from Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah. Yep.
It's that thing of for a movie, you wonder if, as Craig Zahler was like, Bone Tomahawk was too, people were like, ugh. Yeah. And so he's like, I don't want to make people sick, so I'll make it a little over the top, and that'll be okay.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like when I watch this, I'm sitting here going, okay, the brilliance of this, to do this, and to put it to where it's such a bad thing to happen to such an innocent, but it's all in your head.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
They're never going to show it. You're never going to see it. It does. The only problem for me was, and at the beginning, watching this part, was the fact because of how graphic Bone Tomahawk got, that I was worried that it could have.
Yeah.
So that was the thing, that it was kind of like the
GoPro in her vajayjay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was basically saying that they were going to mail him a package.
Yeah.
with the arms,
It was like my wife, of course, was like, "That's a small package." I go, "Honey, come on, like, be a little more empathetic."
Well, I now it's very bad.
Right.
But now my brain just went to pump up the volume. Is it bigger than baby's arm?
Depends on how big the baby is. Bradley reluctantly accepts and picks a fight with multiple guards until he is overpowered and transferred to Redleaf. So this is where my wife was like, that guy wouldn't have a gun. Like when she worked in the jails, she was like, we didn't have guns. We had batons. We had, she's like, but this is why you don't have a gun in prison, because they'll take it from you and they'll fucking feed it to you. And so it's like, yeah. But then so now you feel bad because that one guard is like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to fuck with you. I just wanted you to be part of the wrestling team. Are you okay? What was the news that you just got?" Boxing. What did I say? Wrestling. Yeah. I got my family. You still need to watch that, Fighting with the Family. It's fucking good. Where he was, and then he just beats a guy up, and you're like, oh shit, like fuck. And even when they're taking him away, that guy that was his handler to show him around, his orientation guy, just like gave him a look and like shook his head, like, I thought you had potential. I thought you were better than this.
Yep.
At Redleaf, Bradley encounters the authoritarian Warden Tuggs. He eventually learns from a fellow inmate who informs him that Cell Block 99 is for society's most despised criminals. I was going to say, is "deprised" a word? Despised criminals. Bradley then devises a plan to start a brawl with other prisoners, resulting in him being sent to Cell Block 99 and being forced to wear a stun belt. So that was where, when he's sitting there, he's like, "Who's Christopher Bridge?" And the guy's like, "We don't know any Christopher Bridge. Shut the fuck up. What the fuck?" And then that one guy who you kind of think might be okay, but it's good the way they show it, is he's like, "You should leave," like later on we'll get to it, but he's like, "You should leave them in the cell together, make them eat each other." And you're like, oh, that guy's not a nice guy. Like, this guy, do not let this guy out. Like, leave him in there. That's why he's here. He's a bad person. And they put that stun belt on him, and Don Johnson's just like, "So you owe us 25 credits, and so that means 5 of these, and maybe at lunch, maybe while you're sleeping, maybe whatever." And you're like, "Oh, fuck."
When you're
and
taking a shit.
And then all that glass in his room. "Oh yeah, we forgot to clean up this glass." My thing was, I would turn the bed over and pull it across the floor to scrape up all the glass into one corner, then put the bed back, and then when I fell, I wouldn't fall on broken glass. But yeah, it's a movie. It's written that way.
Yeah. Well, that, and if you're already going through all that, pain from them shocking you at the time, you're not going to be like, "I'm going to lift this over here."
Right. Well, my thing was like, I would kick it with my feet or something to clear out a space so that I could fall to. But yes, I hear you. Bradley speaks to a man in an adjacent cell who informs him that Christopher Bridge does not exist at all. So that's where also you're like, oh, they fucked him. Like, they said Christopher Bridge, like they just put him here. During the night, Wilson, one of the Redleaf guards, escorts Bradley to another cell within Cell Block 99 where Elazar and his gang, including Roman, are held. It is revealed that they intend to torture Bradley for their amusement throughout his incarceration at Redleaf. And that guard's like, "Don't fucking kill him because I'll be in trouble." Like, and you're like, oh, this guy's a fucking piece of shit too, this guard. Bradley then devises a plan and places the rubber from his shoe lining between his body and belt to prevent the stuns, which is very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He ambushes Wilson and another guard, killing the former. So that's when, and I looked away for a second, but when he first like pushes him in there, he's like, "Don't do it." The guy puts his gun out the thing and he kicks that, and then the guy tries to come out and he slams the door on him and crushes it, like kills him, and he's like, "You stupid son of a bitch!" Like now I killed the guard.
Yep.
And then the other guard's
I
like,
wasn't
"Here's my
sure,
keys."
though, at first, because when he hit him, I was like, And then the other guy said, "Oh, you killed him." He goes, "Yeah, well."
Yeah,
Threw him in there.
He later brutally kills most of Elazar's gang, leading Elazar to call the abortionist to start the operation. And that's one where you're like, hurry up and fucking beat this guy to get to him, because he's on the phone, and you're like, all he has to say is go, and that guy's ready. And you could see when they showed the abortionist where he's like, oh, I don't get to kill anything. Yeah, exactly. Elazar threatens Bradley to no avail, with Bradley taking Elazar's phone and torturing him until Elazar calls off the operation. Which again, you're like, how is he gonna? This guy is not gonna back down. But when you break my leg up, I think I'll agree. And then you pull on it to like pop it out of place.
Drag,
by my broken leg, yes. The Placid Man and the abortionist follow Elazar's instructions and drive Lauren unharmed to Gil's house. And this is one where I forgot about, and me and the wife were both surprised. As they drive away, Gil retrieves a hidden rifle and kills the Placid Man. So all of a sudden you see, picks up it's laying right in the grass. You guys just didn't see it. And he just picks that up and just unloads. And then she grabs a gun and and that guy, the abortionist, is trying to get away. And, Lauren then takes a rifle and shoots the abortionist. Gil phones Bradley to inform him that, and so he's telling Don Johnson, he's telling the warden, like, it'll be a minute. Give me about 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And the warden's like, it's been 5 minutes. He's like, hang on. Let me just make one more call. Or let me talk to him.
Well, and I love the way he said it. Like, he was like, I swear on Holy
on
Bible.
Jesus Christ. And that's what they were saying with that thing on his back. They're like, he's a Christian, and so he has these morals. Even though he does drug dealing, he doesn't do drugs, but he's got this code of, Gil phones Bradley to inform him that his family is finally safe, and then Bradley speaks to Lauren about their unborn child. Bradley then decapitates Elazar in his cell. Tugs and his guards emerge and execute Bradley. The end. So that's one where you're like, I'm like, honey, what are they gonna, like, maybe they'll take him, I kind of knew, but I was kind of like, maybe they'll just take him. And my wife's like, no, they're gonna kill him. He's gonna kill him. And I'm like, oh yeah, he said, like, I'll save the taxpayer money. Like, I'm not a regular prison. Fuck you guys. So you're like, and then they shoot him, and then in the head. And my wife's like, that was fake. I'm like, well, it was fun.
Yeah. Well, my whole thing at that point was I wasn't sure, because the only other logical thing that I could think of was that the main drug dealer dude that he basically just executed could have had a stranglehold on a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And controlled too much shit even from the inside.
Yeah.
That it was very possible that Tugs could have been like, all right, well, you killed him.
Yeah.
So
I
don't have to deal with his shit anymore.
Yeah.
Thinking that maybe that might be a positive thing, but then when he shot him in the chest and in the head, I went, nope, never mind.
Yeah. Is there something that sticks with you from this movie? Like, I think mine would be like your fetus will cut off the arms and legs and make it still live, like, as a,
Yeah, that was
that. It's that
that's
broken.
why I said it was brilliant to put it into your mind without having to show you some graphical craziness like Bone Tomahawk. So,
and the one that I forgot that, and the wife was like, ooh, and I was like, oof. But when he puts his foot on the back of that guy's head, and then he pushes it forward, and the guy's, and he's like, I will fucking kill him. And they don't do anything, and he pushes him the rest of the way, and then he turns over, and he's like got this just skull, and he's just barely breathing.
No more face, it's all his skull. Yeah.
So that, but also that crushing that head, like that's one that I always remember is him just stepping on that guy's face and just breaking it.
For me, I think in the past, whenever anybody got their arm or leg broken backwards or done in a certain way, I was always like kind of cringy about that for whatever reason when I was younger. But this time I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
But I think overall, I think my biggest thing about this whole thing was just Vince Vaughn being a different person.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was no seeing him as Wedding Crashers. There was no seeing him,
Swingers, being jokey or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing to that. There was no semblance. Like it was almost perfect that putting him in this position, like it's almost like he made the decision to just barely ever even smile unless it had to do with his wife.
Yeah.
Period. Like, because you didn't want to see that Vince Vaughn come out. You didn't want to see, like he didn't want to show it.
Yeah.
And that was what was brilliant about it. So,
damn it. There was a part in here about swingers, but now I can't find it. But there's a part about him saying, thought it was right there why he chose Vaughn. But anyway, it's probably mixed in there. But he was like, yeah, this is a Vaughn that you've seen. Like you haven't, oh yeah, it was later. Never mind. Sorry, I ruined it. It's on one of the reviews. I'll get to it in a second. Gotcha. But yeah, it's that thing of just, you're like, oh my God, like, holy shit. He's amazing. He was in that Clay Pigeons movie. Mm-hmm. He's been in other things where he's kind of serious, but yeah, this is more like just like brutal, like badass dude. Mm-hmm. It's that guy that you and I have talked about. And I think I realize like in movies, it's a lot of that of like, I want to be that guy. Yeah. I wouldn't be that guy. I'd like to be that guy, but also I wouldn't like to be the guy because I wouldn't want to be angry with my wife and what the fuck. Like, no, I'm not that guy. I don't have the heart for it. Heart, literally, like I'd die of high blood pressure if I was angry like that.
Yeah.
The reviews, Rotten Tomatoes critical consensus reads, quote, Brawl in Cell Block 99 rides a committed Vince Vaughn performance into the brutally violent and undeniably entertaining depths of prison set grindhouse genre fare, unquote. So Richard Roper of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 3.5 out of 4 stars and praised Vaughn's performance, saying, quote, in the middle of all the wince-inducing, limb-bending, bone-crunching, face-exploding bloodshed, Vaughn turns in a legitimately great performance that ranks among the finest work he's ever done, unquote. Owen Gleiberman of Variety praised the film, calling it a rare movie that truly evokes the grindhouse 70s with its exploitation made with vicious sincerity. He also praised Vaughn's performance, referring his character Bradley as, quote, a big, violent, sad-eyed baby, and he connects to the audience in a direct emotional way that he has done only rarely since Swingers. There's my Swingers thing. But not all reception was positive, Chip. Eric Cohn of IndieWire gave the film a B-, writing, quote, Brawl in Cell Block 99 unleashes a fascinating gamble blending the grimy aesthetic of a one-note action movie with undercurrents of blue-collar frustration. It doesn't quite succeed at fusing those two elements, but it's further proof of a filmmaking sensibility willing to push beyond the presumed barriers of formula, unquote. So it's like, I get it, but also like, So I give this movie, now we're at ratings, here we go, 4 out of 5 celluloid hearts. So this one where I dropped my other rating down. I even went on Letterboxd and changed it from 5 to 4.5 for Bone Tomahawk. So this one's 4, because I could see in a way of what people are saying, kind of like what they said with Bone Tomahawk, how it just it's kind of like a long thing to get to where you're going, but it's that character building thing where you're not bored. I think that was my thing. Before you and I rewatched Dazed and Confused, my thing was, I remember watching this and it was boring because it's a hangout movie and I was waiting for some funny, some whatever. And it's like, no, you got to just sit, smoke a joint, drink some whiskey, watch this movie. That's how Chip watches them. What do you give it, Chip? Okay, here we are. I'm excited.
I honestly am giving it 5.
Wow. And what'd you give Bone Tomahawk? 4?
I thought I gave that 5 too, didn't I?
No.
Didn't I?
Because you were saying that it was a little long.
Oh, yeah.
And there were some things that could be cut or whatever.
Okay. Good.
So I think it was 4. That's why I want you to have a letterbox. So if people check, they can find your letterbox account and be like, oh shit, Chip gave it.
Well, and I just didn't. I couldn't remember if I gave it a 4 or 5 because I didn't want it to be. I didn't want to strike it down because of the graphic nature of that scene.
Yeah, and
but I guess that makes sense because of how long it was. Kind of just when they could have cut out a lot of that walking crap.
From our discussion, it was the length and not that brutality. Like, I think you were like me in a way where you respected the filmmaking of the brutality, where it made you nauseous, and you're like, I haven't had a movie do this where it made me sick before. Like, holy shit.
Well, and the reason why I give it 5 now is because Vince
talk me into raising my rating.
Well, Vince Vaughn carried this movie by himself. He didn't need multiple people.
True.
He did it, and he did it in such a way that I never thought he could do. So that made it awesome. But I didn't feel like the length. I feel like the length of the movie was well spent.
Yeah.
In the time to make you understand Vince Vaughn's character.
Yes.
And there's too many movies out there where they try to make the hero the hero.
Yeah.
Without giving you any reason to feel anything for him or care. They just basically say, here's the hero. And it's kind of a generic bullshit way.
Yeah.
But with him, he has his scruples. He has his, I mean, for him to go and just shoot the guys to save the police, you know, kind of a situation like they fucked up. I'm fucking them up kind of a situation.
Yeah, because it's that thing like my wife said, like, just leave. And like they said, you could have left. And he's like, and my thing was, he's like, no, I have my scruples and you fucked me over and I told you not to and you did. You said you'd listen, you didn't. So now I'm going to take you out. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just, and it was a thing of like the fact that they were already setting this up in the movie of letting you know what type of a person he is. And then he's put into the worst position possible as far as the threatening of his child.
Yeah. Yeah, where that's the other thing we didn't really talk about was when he tells her, she's like, I'll come to court. He's like, no, don't go to court. It's going to be bad. It's not going to be good for you. I know what I did. I know what I'm doing. It's 4 years. I'll be fine. I'll come back. Don't bring her to see me because I don't want her to see me that way. I'll just get out and we'll explain something. And then all of a sudden when he's hit with, well, now you have to do this, he's like, oh shit, you know. And then when you find out like, oh, that guy didn't even exist, like, holy shit. Like now you've beaten up all these guards. Now you got more time. Plus now you're in a maximum security. Now all of a sudden you've killed this guy, you know, accidentally, you know, both of your fault. But you know, if you wouldn't have acted up, he wouldn't have died. But he was an asshole. But yeah, okay. Go ahead.
So for me, I mean, it was awesome with Bone Tomahawk because they had so many great actors doing it.
Yeah.
To carry it through
Yeah.
to the end, what needed to happen, especially what needed to happen to these people. But for him, it was all him. I mean, the threat and everything was, you know, to him.
Yeah.
You know, and it was all, it wasn't like, I don't know how to explain it as far as, for him in the beginning when she said, I love you, and he winked at her.
Yeah. Yeah.
He never said it. When he knew he was going to die in the end, on the phone, he actually said, I love you too, because he knew.
Yeah. And
he knew it was over.
And that he was trying to compose himself and not let her hear him cry because she's never heard or seen him cry. And that moment was like very powerful because he was like trying to tell her, like telling her everything, but not telling her you know, and she knew though. But yeah, it was,
So this, I guess, is the best way to explain it. From the beginning, you get a very chill dude, trying to take care of his family, to where it gets to a complete brutality in the end. But when it does that, you go from a guy who can barely say "I love you" to her, to saying "I love you" in the very end because of everything that he knows that he's done and what is about to happen to him.
Yes.
Like it was just such a weird thing that it went to that opposite, you know, ends of it.
And a love story all the way through, but really where he'll do anything for her, for his baby and for her. Like, I don't want that. Like, we tried before, we couldn't get the baby, now we're trying, you know, all that stuff. Yeah, it was, maybe I'll jump it up to 4.5. I'll have to think about it. Maybe they'll both be 4.5, but yeah. Are you ready for Phil's film favorite of the week?
Yeah, let's do it.
He is. Look at the smile on his face. Code of Silence from 1985. Chuck Norris. It's on HBO Max, everybody. Check it out. It was fun. Here, I'll give you the tagline. Eddie Cusack's a good cop having a very bad day. A Chicago cop is caught in the middle of a gang war while his comrades shun him because he wants to take an irresponsible cop down. So, remember on Home Alone, and he watched that video called Angels with Dirty Faces, and there was that guy, you filthy animal, you know, take that, you filthy animal. It was that actor playing this bad cop. But everybody else was like, oh, he's fine. And he's like, no. So there was a shooting. So I thought it was Silent Rage because I knew somebody had to be quiet. I knew it was like the thin blue line, like you can't say shit, like all this. So this kid gets shot in the hallway on this drug bust that they're trying to do, and it's got Dennis Farina in it, so he's pretty cool. He's Chuck Norris' partner, and he's always having ideas. I got an idea. What if we do like a fishing boat? And then he's like, I got an idea. What if we do like a skating rink? Like all these weird ideas. When we retire. So the thing is, so now he knows that guy's a bad cop. And he's trying to tell that guy's partner, and the guy's partner's younger and just goes with what the guy says. So then they're going to have a trial. Oh, so then they walk around in the thing, and they're like, sign this paper. It's a petition for him that we all stick up for him. And they ask Chuck Norris in the gym, and Chuck Norris is like, no. And they're like, why the fuck not, man? And he's like, because he's a bad cop, and you know that he's been here too long. He's burnt out, and he needs to stop. Because it'll happen again. He's going to kill another kid. And so now everybody's starting to hate him. Like, oh, he's whatever. So then later when he's trying to bust this drug dealer, and which is Henry Silva from Manchurian Candidate, when he's trying to get him, he needs now backup to go. And all the cops, and so when he calls it in, he's like, I need backup. I'm going in. All the cops are like, sorry, I'm busy. You know, they're telling the dispatcher, sorry, I'm busy right now. We got this jam on them. And all they're doing is eating donuts on the corner. And then they're like, what about you? And these other cops are like, no, we're already dealing with something else. And they're just sitting in their car, not doing anything. And so Chuck Norris is like, fuck it. And so he goes to the police station. He grabs, like, they have this motorized new, supposed to be like a tank that you can motorize with a big box, and you can make it do stuff. So it's got missiles and machine guns and stuff. So he takes that, locks the guy that's washing the motor pool, locks him in his office with his girlfriend, locks him in there, and then takes off with everything. And then finally, toward the end, then they're all like, we got to go help him. So it's very cool.
Nice.
But yeah, I gave that 4. I was like, should I give this like 4.5 or 5? Like, it was good. And then I'm like, no, I'll give it 4. So maybe if you put that, like, is Brawl in Cell Block 99 better than Code of Silence? Yes. So I gave them both 4s, you know, but different movies, different ways. But anyway, Chip and I will be...
You want to go watch Delta Force now, don't you?
No, Delta Force. I remember watching that back in the day. Don't get me started. But back in the day, I was like, oh, Delta Force is supposed to be really good. Chuck Norris, I'm going to watch it. There's like 45 minutes of that movie is all these people on the plane, and the plane's flying. And then our guy from Jackie Brown, Robert Forster, hijacks a plane. He's supposed to be like, you know, Middle Eastern. Hijacks a plane. And they don't show up for like 45 minutes. Then Delta Force shows up, and you're like, what the fuck? But it's got a cool ending stuff. But yeah, you're just like, oh my God. But that's the other thing. I remember rewatching whatever Chuck Norris's like first movie that he did for Hollywood, whatever. And I remember like, oh, this isn't as good as I remember. Like, I wanted to watch The Octagon and stuff because I used to love Chuck Norris. And now it's like, oh, these don't hold up, you know, or they're those Canon films, like from Canon production pictures, and they're like, Invasion USA and all those. But anyway, Chip and I will be back on July 29th for...
A single red ant could have eaten it faster.
You're losing perspective and compassion. There's a reason I'm sitting behind this desk running things, and you're out there with a partner that's 20 years younger than you.
Hey, Anthony's got a mouth with his own engine, but he's solid.
I'm thinking about the kind of future I can offer my girlfriend.
Pops is a yesterday who ain't worth words.
Good heavens and praise be to him. Your absence was a weight upon us.
Thank you, Mr. Edmonton.
I don't like doing things with so many question marks everywhere.
There's a lot of imbeciles out there.
Start the party. This is a bad idea.
It's all cotton candy.
We have the skills and the right to acquire proper compensation.
That's right. From 2019, it's Dragged Across Concrete. Mel Gibson, Vince Vaughn again.
Yay.
Killing it. Oh. And there's a trailer I'm going to share with you that I just shared with everybody that I'll share you. And then then you'll know what we're looking at. So,
Sweet.
Yep. Certain movies stick with you. They stay in your head and heart forever. So from all of us at My Cellular Heart, keep watching movies. So what do you have to say, Chip? Anything?
Bradley.
Thomas.
Not Brad.
Yeah.
Bradley.
Yeah. He's like, hey, Brad. No, it's Bradley. Oh, okay. Bradley.
He did that, what, 3 times throughout the whole movie?
Something
They
like
call
that,
him
yeah.
Brad. He said Bradley.
Yeah. Hysterical.
Yep.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.